back with another episode of Coffee Chat Live for MSPs. I am so excited today. I have Michael from River Run. He's the CTO of River Run, a huge partner of ours, a very knowledgeable person. I see David's on, the usuals, Jared, Daniel, and then we also have the wonderful from Scout, Leonard Navarro. I'm so excited. We're going to change things up today a little bit. We have a little game that I want to play with Michael and Leonard. So hopefully it's fun. If we like it, if we can enjoy it, we can come back to it again next week. But I want to pivot a little bit first and introduce people we have on this week. So Michael, we coming off a great webinar that we did together. Super excited about that. Can you tell us a little bit about your role and what you see and what's going on right now, and just high level, whatever however you want to talk about it. We like to keep it casual, informal. We treat this as the anti webinar, actually. So
got it. Okay, all right, fair enough. I could do anti. So I joined River Run, an MSP here in the southeastern Milwaukee area, in June of last year. I came from a Fortune 50 company, worked there 15 years, enjoyed it, but corporate America was just burning me out. And there's so much opportunity with small, medium business. I also ran my own very small shingle shop, MSP, and I've always been involved in technology. And this was a really great opportunity to blend both worlds of, I can be part of a larger MSP, do what I always had trouble scaling myself. But then also not lose my technology background and use a lot of my executive leadership I learned through corporate America. So pleasure to be here and partnering. One of my roles was at corporate America was working with a lot of vendors and establishing relationships. And so when we did our partnership with Scout, it was really important to me that I had teammates that I really treated as teammates and not just a vendor relationship. And that's what's really cool about this more than anything else, in my opinion. So that's a little bit about me. What am I seeing? Technology is always a changing landscape. I know we all know that. Security is such a interesting thing right now. And I don't think it's going away. Interesting, scary, interesting, cool. I think it's going to really push the bounds of technology and our technologists and our inventors to really get in front of people that, quite frankly, the bad actors that are at home figuring out ways to mess up our world. It's a new modern warfare, which is absolutely terrible to say, but it's true. And it's going to be a challenge for all of us to figure that out, but I think we're making great strides with it. So
yeah, no, we talk about it here, like the threat landscape and how crazy it's gotten. And we try, I like to say, I don't want to scare people. I'm not in the business of trying to scare people about cybersecurity, but things are getting worse. And it is because of that, the increase of threats and shortage of, cyber experts and tons of things happening there. But that's actually a great segue into a good friend of mine, Mr. Leonard Navarro, who works at Scout. Leonard, why don't you introduce yourself a little bit, talk a little bit, Leonard happens to know a thing or two about cyber insurance. So maybe you could touch on that a bit, and then we'll get into our game, that we're trying out for the first time. But Leonard has been with Scout for about 700 years now, so he knows a thing or two about cybersecurity.
Yeah, so thanks, Jimmy. So in terms of my background, I've been lucky to work at enormous organizations in cybersecurity and then startups and as an investigator on major forensic investigations. So I got to say, Jimmy, when you say, we're not trying to scare people, that used to be the sales tactic about 8 years ago. You walked in, you showed people the latest graph. The way the penny has dropped now is that it's much more mainstream. So I think what's been interesting for us over the last, year or so in particular is clients who used to be very much, set it and forget it are now reaching out when they read something in the news to see how it affects them, which I think is good overall. I think that's a positive thing coming out of a lot of the trends we're seeing, which brings us to cyber insurance. So, part of my job at Scout is to work on all sort of strategic accounts. And one of those things that we're looking at right now in terms of a strategic partnership is cyber insurance. Now, what does that mean for SMBs in particular? Your big organizations, your Fortune 1000s, they're not going to have any problem getting a cyber insurance policy. They're not going to have any problem getting E&O insurance, all that kind of stuff that's going to protect them. When it comes to the SMBs, they're struggling right now, particularly after a lot of the more recent breaches. So, 52% of breaches are caused by employees. And, these are organizations where imagine building an organization for 25 years and in 60 seconds, someone does something stupid. Suddenly you're under a ransomware attack. And 60% of those companies are going to go out of business. So they really need to do something. And what we're starting to see is as better policies are coming out, we're talking, pennies per endpoint to protect your infrastructure. So Scout's looking at a couple things. We're talking about, is there a way we can just bake in cyber insurance policies or what we would call guarantees into what we're doing? And there's a world in which we front the cost. We think it's that valuable to make sure that a customer is covered with $500,000 in cyber insurance coverage to be able to have that to mitigate that worry that they might have that someone's just going to do something stupid. So it's an emerging industry. It's something, we've been looking at it for 3 years now, and it moves very slowly. But once it takes off, everyone's going to be getting policies that are small enough that they're manageable, but also with a dollar amount of coverage, which will help you mitigate things within 24 hours. That's what we're trying to get to. If you have an issue, you need to be able to make a call. You need to get $100,000 to pay off a ransomware or start an investigation or do something like that. So that's the direction it's going. And we're keeping an eye on it while we're doing everything else.
Well, thanks, Leonard. I know it's tough talking about cyber insurance in like 2 minutes, but I think you did a great job there. So we're about like I said, we like to keep this chat quick, short. We're almost at the halfway point, and we're going to introduce this new game. We're totally ripping it off from Gary Vee. It's called Overrated, Underrated. So I'm going to throw out topics here. I'm going to have Michael and Leonard, and you guys can sort of jump in and say whether or not they're overrated, underrated, or if you want, you can be neutral in the subject. I don't know. I think it's a cop-out to be neutral on things, but hey, I know some people. No, I'm just kidding. There's plenty of subjects to be neutral on. And then, a little bit about why. So, we're just talking cyber insurance, overrated, underrated right now.
Go ahead.
I'll say it's underrated. And it will continue to be underrated for a while.
Yeah, I would agree. Underrated, underregulated, and huge risk.
Yeah.
Okay, let's jump into the next one. We just did a webinar with you guys, but we're on the anti-webinar platform. So, this is super conflicting. I'm giving conflicting messages. I don't know. Webinars, overrated or underrated right now?
Underrated.
I think they're underrated right now. When things go back to normal, they'll go back to being overrated.
Okay, let's get into some pop culture stuff. So, we see this artwork selling for millions of dollars, the NFT art, NFTs, overrated, underrated, or neutral?
Oh, now neutral's an option? I'm so confused on this game, man. I don't know. Underrated.
Underrated? Any reason why?
Because I really wanted to say neutral, and that's not an option. So
in my mind, it's somehow both. It is altogether overrated in that it's one of those absurd things. In my mind, it falls into that whole GameStop thing, but it's also underrated in that it's a market. So people are spending the money to play in that space. So it's one of those things, again, we should just keep an eye on.
You see what Leonard just did there? He just said neutral without saying neutral somehow.
That's why he's the master. I'm learning. I'm a sponge right now just watching this.
He really is a master at that stuff. All right, let's go to MDR. There's just the acronym MDR for whatever that means to you.
Yeah, medical device regulation. That is definitely underrated there. Definitely under. I think it's underrated, and it's really difficult these days to explain to clients the difference. And no matter how great the collateral is that we use, sometimes they just don't get it until they have it, which is why I think it's underrated.
Yeah, I'm actually going to say it's overrated because I think it's
Okay.
because it is so hard to describe to people. I think people assume it's like a panacea
Mm,
for all kinds of issues. It can be, but it's often. I don't know if we. I don't think it is. I don't think it is. I think you need to have a lot of other layers of protection. And I feel like it's one of the new flavors. It's like when people talk automation orchestration, that kind of stuff. Is it? What does that mean? Nobody knows.
Yeah. It's AI and big data. All
Yeah.
right. I
Yeah.
like it. I want more of it.
Blockchain.
yeah. Oh
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh yeah.
blockchain,
Blockchain.
neural
Yeah.
net.
I forgot my 2020 buzz term. Blockchain.
I love that. Great banter here. All right. So change it up a little bit. You know, we were talking about COVID and mass a little bit in the pre meeting. So let's say right now at this time, in person meetings at a golf course. Let's say that specific case. Overrated, underrated.
Clarifying question. Are we golfing?
You are golfing.
Underrated.
I'm gonna say underrated too. There is things get done somehow on a golf course, which I don't know if it's people loosen up or the competitive edge or something like that, but things get done. I hate it, but things get done.
That's true. I
The
love
problem
it.
is I'm in the forest trying to find my ball, not doing business, while the rest of them are on the green. So I don't,
Yeah.
All right. Tesla. Not maybe everything that comes with it, the technology, the stock price, Elon Musk, Tesla, overrated, underrated.
Overrated, which is exactly how he wants it.
I love that.
I think I'm gonna say underrated. Looking at everything together, the idea of Tesla, I think, is incredibly valuable for the globe. But Elon, man, I hope he doesn't hear this, but it must be exhausting working with him.
100%. 100%. Really interesting company if he doesn't exist at some point. Really interesting to see where that company goes. Love how they push the bounds of everything, no matter what, and cost is not an object. That is pretty cool business model in my mind.
Yeah, I know. He's the only person who would do some of the things that he's talking. It's crazy. Pushing boundaries. All right. LinkedIn. Overrated, underrated. This is the only platform we're not streaming on because we don't have access yet. So LinkedIn, if you see this video, please approve us for LinkedIn Live.
Yeah, and if LinkedIn wants to sponsor us and give me premium status, that'd be great. So I can control the amount of inquiries. I think it's underrated because people don't really understand how to curate the content on LinkedIn. In fact, David, one of my colleagues, is really good on LinkedIn. And if you know how to use that tool and use it appropriately and socially responsibly, I think it's underrated. If you abuse it, like 99% of the requests I'm getting right now, unfortunately, it's overrated.
Yeah, I think it's underrated. I mean, and of course, if you've got premium, that it's a different platform entirely to me.
Yep.
But I think it's massively underrated. And I don't the amount of information you can discover about people, and this is what you had asked me to talk about, Jimmy. I've seen some people post some things on LinkedIn which are such security risks that it blows my mind. I once worked in an investigative firm, and the finance team went on a retreat, left one guy behind, posted pictures on LinkedIn of everyone at the retreat for the holiday weekend. And lo and behold, someone noticed and went after that one remaining finance guy and socially engineered him to wire out millions of dollars. And over the course of a weekend in multiple transactions, because this guy thought the CEO was emailing him to get something done. So it's a great tool. You got to be careful what you're putting on there.
And let me just say this too. I asked Leonard if he could tell some stories about his days of an investigator, and let's just say that this was not the first story that he wanted to tell. So if you ever see Leonard in person and it's not live streamed and documented, maybe you can get some more stories out of him.
Yeah.
But no, it is. How about this? All right, last one. Coffee Chat Live for MSPs, the show we're on right now. Overrated, underrated?
Underrated. I don't think I've joined this yet, and I need to do that more. I've been invited. I've not taken the time. So underrated, and you've got a permanent fan.
Great. Thank you. Leonard, what do you think?
Yeah, it's underrated. I mean, it's good to talk to people nowadays. It's good to see, new faces, I like it. I love it.
Great. All right. Well, any closing words? We like to keep it quick, just 15 minutes. Anything for the people?
Leonard, the host of the show, underrated or overrated?
Is neutral back on the
Okay, I
menu
think we
there?
put neutral back on the table, right?
I could try and, Jimmy is altogether a fantastic host, and underwhelming at times too. So we're just gonna go right down the middle there.
Fantastic host. Appreciate the opportunity, Jimmy.
Thank you, guys. There you go. Jimmy from Scout gets a solid neutral.
Solid 3 out of 5.
All right.